Hello and welcome to the Busy Mum Show, the show to help moms and their families thrive. I'm your host, Dr. Leonaura Rhodes, and today I'm delighted to be joined by Tina Gleisner. And Tina and I are going to be talking about how to get your home organized and how to keep our kids busy over the summer. But before I introduce Tina further, I'd like to tell you a little bit about the concept for the show. First, to tell you, I am a mom on a mission to help other mothers and their families thrive. What I've learned in my years of working as a coach is that when mothers don't spend time nurturing themselves, it affects the whole family. And in order to have a thriving family life, it's really important that mothers spend some time nurturing themselves. And so I've been coaching mothers for several years, and 2 years ago I decided I wanted to share my work with more people. So I decided to write a book, and my book, Beyond Soccer Mom, Strategies for a Fabulous Balanced Life, has just been released. And Beyond Soccer Mom contains strategies which I have learned over the last 20 years as a physician, coach, neurotherapist, and busy mom to help moms increase their health, happiness, success, and abundance. And then the next natural step for me was that I wanted to be able to share with all of you mums out there information from top experts on issues to help moms and their families thrive. So without further ado, I'm excited to introduce you to Tina Gleisner. Tina is the founder of HomeTips4Women, which is a business to help women improve their home, and her website has information on real estate, construction, home maintenance, and decorating. And Tina worked for IBM for over 29 years and then ran a handyman business for 8 years. So welcome, Tina. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you, Leonora. I'm thrilled to be here and to be able to share tips with lots of busy moms so that they can spend less time keeping their homes organized by really inviting their kids to work with them on that project. One of the things I personally have struggled with is my standards for getting organized work for me, but they're not the same standards that are going to work for other people. And we don't always realize that with our kids until maybe the second or third one comes along. And my two boys are very, very different. Yeah. And so I'm very organized, but that doesn't mean that I can pass that love of organization onto the boys. So my first tip is that you want to engage your children in figuring out how to keep the house organized. Because if you try to impose very rigid rules on them and it doesn't fit their personality, and they have one, then they're not going to follow through and do it your way. And so even when my kids were really little, I mean, a lot of people can relate to the fact that toys end up everywhere in the house. And you can waste a lot of time at the end of the day. You're trying to straighten up just, so that you can sit down and relax without seeing all that clutter. So the thing I decided to do was, rather than fight the clutter, I got baskets, and I had a basket in each room. So I didn't have to run from room to room. All I had to do was throw those toys into the baskets, and there they were. And gosh, the kids soon learned that things belonged in the baskets, and if they couldn't find them in one basket, then they could go to the other rooms and find them in other baskets. So no longer did I have to worry about, certain toys lived in the bedroom, other toys lived in the mudroom. It was wherever they were, I just threw them in a basket.
That's great advice. Yes, I know a lot of mothers who are highly organized, who have, they have stickers on cupboards and this has to go here. And it's a great source of stress because kids just don't, often kids just don't get that.
Right. So when your kids are older, I mean, I learned this. I honestly, once a year, I really would go through the kids' closets and just clean out a lot of the clutter because, boys will be boys and the candy wrappers would be there with everything else and the empty boxes. And so I could get rid of all that. But what I really found worked was to involve the kids in cleaning up the clutter and organizing it, because it's more important that they really take on some ownership.
Yeah.
And it's a great activity really to really spend time. And you'll actually, if you back off a little and just stop, get out of that mode of just telling them what to do.
Yeah.
And invite them to say, okay, so, if we were going to make 3 piles here,
yeah,
what do you have in your room? And hopefully they're going to figure out they have clothes that go one place and they have toys that go another place and maybe sports equipment that goes in a third pile. And so right there, you're starting to teach them that, gosh, if they think about logically, sports equipment that you use outside the house is different and maybe could be stored someplace else in the house, it starts to make more sense. And if you ask questions, in a way, it's like coaching. I mean, some coaches like to tell, but the most effective coaches are the ones that really, through a dialogue, through asking questions, will lead the other person to learn and discover for themselves what's going to work.
Absolutely. Yes. No, you're totally right. And I find as a coach that the approach that you said about finding out what will work for a person is really, really important because, as you know, I'm kind of into neuroscience, and if somebody's subconscious mind comes up with an idea, it's much more likely to work than if a coach or a parent or somebody else comes up with an idea, because the subconscious mind says, oh yeah, I like that idea because it came from me. So our subconscious mind likes to know that it's right and to have our ideas reinforced. So it's a great idea to come up with strategies with your child rather than fighting their natural tendencies. So Tina, do you have any tips on there's a lot of viewers who have slightly younger children. Mine are teens now, so it's a little bit more difficult to make things fun. But for those watching who've got slightly younger kids, any tips on how to make tidying up and organizing a bit more fun?
I think actually my undergraduate degree is in elementary education.
Oh, wow.
And so I'll never forget, like, as a junior, when I started taking like my teaching courses, they said, the more you make something in school like a game, make it entertaining, the more fun it is, the more likely you're going to get the kind of engagement you want.
Yeah.
So I think if you make it a game, so suppose you have 2 or 3 little ones, and you want to start teaching them how to collect their laundry and bring it to the laundry room, then what you might do is all together go to a store to buy laundry baskets. Okay. And ideally they can pick out different colors so that, green, goes with one child, blue with another, and then the third one has yellow. Mm-hmm. And so then basically you can play different games and find out really which ones are going to work. So it's like, who can fill their basket up fastest?
Yeah.
Right? Or who can get the most stuff in their basket. So you might even have one child who just, relates to this activity more, who's going to go collect everybody's laundry.
Okay. Yeah. Sounds
You
great.
never know. No, it was funny. I was at an event and we got into the discussion. Somebody said, like, their biggest problem at home was who folds laundry, and that they hate folding laundry. And I said, well, but who needs to fold the laundry? If, some people want everything neatly folded in drawers and other people don't care. You just want it distributed into the right bedrooms in a place where they can find it.
Yeah.
And again, what you want to do is find ways. So by engaging with the kids and letting them pick out what color laundry basket they want, all of a sudden they own a piece of that laundry job.
Yes.
So, I would do the same thing of maybe, with young kids, they can't read yet, but you might say have different activities and have the materials for those activities in a bucket.
Yeah.
So basically, they have to put everything back in the bucket and kind of like check it in before they can take another bucket out.
Ah, I like that.
Right? Because otherwise, they end up with, materials at the end of the day for 4 different activities. And then it's a mess. And then how do you organize it? So why not just, organize how you use it and start to teach them that it's so much easier to do something when everything's in the same place. So here's a bucket to, maybe build things with, popsicle sticks and pipe cleaners. And here's something else for coloring, and just have those organized. In fact, one of the things I did, my younger son was much more artistically inclined. And so, we have that dining room and nobody ever uses the dining room except, 3 or 4 times a year. So I turned it into his art room, and I was able to find fairly inexpensive oak cabinet that, was similar to my dining room furniture, which was oak. And I think it had 3 or 4 drawers. So right next to the dining room table, I basically had, one drawer that had all of his construction paper and scissors and glue. And, I forget, it's been a few years, but, each drawer had things and it was right there. So I didn't have to worry. And, the only thing that was in the top drawer that he couldn't reach when he was little were the paints, because that needed some supervision. You needed to make sure that there was a tablecloth on the table before the paints came out.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we all have horror stories of paint and nail varnish and all sorts of things. My youngest brother once wrote his name on the bedroom sheets with nail varnish.
Oh,
but he signed his name. It wasn't very subtle.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, that's really great advice. So, what about, do you have any idea of why it's so, some of the reasons are obvious, why it's so difficult in a family to keep organized. I really, really struggle with it. I'm not naturally a very organized person. I kind of find tidying up a bit boring. But the problem is that when it builds up, it then takes more time than it would have done just to have done it in the first place. So, so tell me a bit about why you find that people say that it's so difficult to keep organized in a busy family.
I think one thing that's going on in our society, and it's very visible in our homes, is, our whole economy is built on consumer buying things. And so, we don't realize it, but we are heavily influenced by what we see on television, what we hear on the radio. It's everywhere. And so the number one problem from my perspective is that we all own way more than we need. And when we own too much, then we don't have an easy way to assign like a home for everything we own. So and I'm just as guilty as everyone else. We finally, I guess, it's funny, these stories, like when we moved to New Hampshire, a friend of mine wanted to celebrate, because my husband and I are both from the East Coast, and so she wanted to buy us new silverware. And that was really exciting. So that was in 1999. We got all this new silverware, and finally last year, We didn't have enough forks, and I had 14 people coming for Thanksgiving. And so we got some new silverware, but now we had to clean out that drawer. Well, lo and behold, we cleaned out that drawer and we had 3 identical can openers.
Oh, funny.
Right? I mean, because it was so jam-packed that
Yeah.
you didn't even realize what was hiding like in the back of the drawer.
Yes.
So, fortunately the kids are in college. My son just moved out of the dorm to an apartment. So, so we've had good places, homes to gift these things to. But I think, what happens is that the first thing to getting organized is to letting go of a lot of things that we own, but we never use.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you can say, can you imagine like getting rid of 20% of what you own? And it wouldn't be that difficult, really.
Yeah.
You most people realize that their closets become cluttered. You buy new clothes, but you don't give away the other ones. And a tip here is that I work with a group in Portsmouth, New Hampshire called A Safe Place. And so they do a really neat thing at Christmas time. They set up a store of all donated items. So I clean my closet out Thanksgiving weekend, and I take all the clothes that I haven't worn over the last year, and I take them to a safe place.
Yeah.
And so the things that are just clutter in my closet become treasures for somebody else who can really use them.
Absolutely.
And so if you get rid of things, then you have more space to store things so you can see them. So for instance, in my closet, I call it my budget. And my shoe budget is I line all of my shoes up on the floor along 2 sides of my closet wall. And when I run out of wall space, then that's the end of my shoe budget. And if I get some new shoes, then I have to gift some of my older shoes.
I love that. What a great idea.
Right? I mean, because the point is if you end up now, okay, people love shoes. I like them more than I used to because I have a friend who's a real shoeaholic. But, so you can get like those shelves so that you can have shoes underneath the shelf and then a second row of shoes on top. I have chosen not to have twice as many shoes. I don't, I think if I've got, like 15 pairs of shoes for the year, that's probably good enough. Yeah. But some people maybe will have 30. But the point is you don't need 60 pairs of shoes.
Yeah.
So that's how I try to control, purchases. So just think, you're going to save money. You're going to see what you have because they're lined up neatly. And then it's easy. And then when you take one pair out just to put the other pair away.
Yeah.
And it works in the kitchen drawers. Yes, there are problems with, say, oversized pots and pans. Because of my handyman business, we actually built a window seat in the kitchen, and it's just the perfect size for all these oversized pots and pans. Or maybe it's a shelf in the, in a closet in the dining room or the front hallway. But again, a budget helps you, stop collecting more and more stuff that you don't need. Because, if it's all the way up on those top shelves, then you start to decide, is it important enough to go get it?
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, we've got these, we went to these super tall kitchen cabinets and I think about it, but that's just to collect more stuff. Yeah. And, do I really want to grab a chair and climb up on the chair and then from there climb onto the countertop to get to that top shelf? I probably, I'll do that maybe for my special dishes that I'll only use at Thanksgiving and Christmas. But, I'm not going to do it the rest of the year. And then it makes you question, do you really need all that?
Absolutely. That's great advice. Thank you. Now, we are heading into the summer vacation, which is very long. Do you have any advice for us mothers who have children on how to entertain them over these long summer months without having to spend a ton of money?
Yes. And I love that you use the words entertain them.
Yeah.
Because, you know, somehow we think we need to entertain them, and we don't. The reality is kids have a great imagination and they can entertain themselves, but you've got to give them the space to use that imagination. And where I really stumbled onto this is with my handyman business. We had to install or really assemble quite a few swing sets.
Yeah.
And I had this one swing set from hell. It was like 2,500 pieces to assemble. And I've got several articles on my website on it. But the reality is as I did the research and I really thought about it, you know, parents go out and they think bigger is better. And gosh, that swing set has to have all of the bells and whistles that every other kid on the block has. And that's just not the case. I mean, the most important thing that a child needs outside in the backyard is to know what space is theirs. You know, because that's the space where it's okay to dig in the dirt and to create something that they want. And so I've actually got some recommendations, because really, if you can create a space in the house that is theirs, that they can keep organized and decorate the way they want, the same outside, that's the most important thing. So outside, what they really need is some dirt, maybe some stones, you know, maybe you want to help them with a little garden, you know, and let them see what they can grow. Just be careful with the watermelons. They kind of took over.
Oh, gosh.
That's what my younger son wanted to plant. We were in California. We did one of those raised beds. Yeah, I mean, if you're not a big gardener, and I'm not, what we did for Ryan, because the landscaping in the backyard was all done, is we just put in, you know, a raised bed that was like 4 by 8 feet. And we put in, he picked quite a few different vegetables, but the watermelon eventually took over everything. But that's a very, you know, so that's a very inexpensive way to keep kids occupied and teach them responsibility.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, because first of all, involve them in building that raised bed, and then let them pick some of the vegetables, and then teach them how to weed and how to water, you know, and even a 4 or 5-year-old can get involved in that. And it's not very expensive. And just think of, you know, all the things that they can learn. I mean, just as I'm thinking, I'm like, this is perfect, because today we live with all these electronic games. It's like instant gratification, but that's not real. I mean, in real life, you have to work for things. So, and you have to wait. You don't get results immediately. And a garden is a perfect way to show them, you know, that it can take 6 or 8 weeks till you have a baby carrot.
Yeah.
But then they have it, and just, you know, that joy, that recognition that they created that carrot.
Yeah.
You know, through the hard work that they did, they can start to see those relationships. So I really encourage parents, you know, don't go overboard with the swing set. You know, an old tire from a big tree would be fine. You know, or, you know, maybe a climbing wall, but you don't need that big castle. You really need to really give the kids a space, and then let them make their mess. And it's their, you know, as long as they like it, don't worry about it. You know, all you need to really worry about are what are the rules for cleaning up so that they don't track the mud back into the house. But outside, let them have at it. Well, what we did for our dog, because we're near the beach, we actually put in an outdoor shower.
Oh, good idea.
Yeah. So, I mean, so, you know, yeah, you have to figure some things out, but, you know, they're just going to learn so much more if they have to create their own play space rather than you defining and putting it out there for them.
Absolutely. It always upset me a little bit when the Lego company started coming out with all of these sets where you had to build what they told you to build. I was like, the whole point of Lego is that you create something from your imagination, not, you know, not whatever it is they tell you to create. So
Exactly.
and I think you're right, the same with outdoor spaces. You know, an overly complicated climbing frame is just an overly complicated climbing frame. But if it's simpler, then they can turn it into whatever they want. You know, they can put a sheet over it and make it into a castle or a tent or a pirate ship or whatever. So I love that idea.
Exactly. And I would say, you know, especially for the younger kids, you know, don't try to use too many electronics, the TV, this. I mean, go back to the basics. There's Play-Doh, there are crayons, there's construction paper, popsicle sticks. You can go to Michael's. You can, you know, pick up big boxes of all these supplies and then just put them out there. Don't give them any direction.
Yes.
You know, let their imagination take over, because that's really what's going to give them the best satisfaction, is when they figure out and create something out of their, you know, imagination.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for all of your wonderful advice today, Tina. It's been great talking to you. And I urge everybody to go and check out Tina's website. It really is jam-packed full of the most incredibly useful information on looking after your home, decorating, you name it. If it's about the home, it's on Tina's website. So Tina, please tell us about your website before we finish.
Sure. You can find me online at HomeTips4Women.com. And as Leonora said, I have a wealth of information. I also have started talking about things that are not related to the physical home, things like we just talked about, because it's really important that your home provide the environment to make your life and your family's life as satisfying and full and fun as possible. And you can find me on Facebook and Pinterest and all those other logical places. In all places, it's Home Tips with or without the number 4women.com.
That's great. Thank you so much, Tina. And thank you all for watching. If you like this video, please like it, share it with your friends, and subscribe. If you'd like to watch more Busy Mum shows, we have some great shows already recorded and some great shows planned. Head on over to thebusymomshow.com and subscribe to our email so that you can receive updates on what's going on in the show. Now, I urge you all to go out there and start creating the fabulous balanced life you know you deserve. Bye for now.